Coming up on this edition of NICB News. Big rigs and potentially big disasters. We'll tell you about the growing trend out west that could turn deadly on the highways.
The scheme is to cause an accident with an innocent person and make it that innocent person's fault.
Plus, we head out east and check in on the first ever indoor hailstorm and how researchers are hoping it will put a dent in insurance fraud.
I hope they understand we're coming for them. This was our big announcement today.
And we head down south to Tampa and check in on how local authorities crack down on medical fraud by shutting down pill mills.
These are places that I wouldn't even eat my lunch in, most of them, never mind get medical treatment.
And we also stop by the Insurance Fraud Management Conference in Orlando and hear the latest on PIP fraud. That's all next on NICB News. Hello and welcome to the spring edition of NICB News. I'm Roger Morris. This may be the most famous stretch of highway in the country, if not the world, the Las Vegas Strip. But there's another series of highways around this area that are becoming infamous for staged accidents.
Well, the scheme is to cause an accident with an innocent person and make it that innocent person's fault. So basically the way the simplest scheme works is to pull in front of an unsuspecting driver on the freeway or on the city streets and slam on your brakes. We're seeing them with private passenger vehicles and 18-wheel big rig trucks, any type of commercial vehicles, any vehicle that they know is going to have insurance.
You heard correctly, pulling in front of an 18-wheel big rig on purpose, as many as 25 crashes in the past 18 months.
I'm hearing from my member companies that this is a problem, that their trucks have been targeted. Usually it's by some shady actors who have gone and asked some folks to participate in an accident that they may have no idea that they're going to be involved in an accident with a big rig. You know, when a driver's behind the wheel of something that weighs 80,000 pounds, that's not a good day for anybody.
This is a serious crime, not only from the insurance fraud aspect, but because this could end in catastrophe with people dying on the road.
NICB is aware of nearly 100 cases of suspected staged accidents in this area in the past year, double the previous year's total. It's all about filing claims for injuries for the passengers that are recruited to be in the car that gets rear-ended.
The trucking industry runs the gambit between your huge companies, your big corporations, and your small one-truck owner-operator. So somebody may think they're after deep pockets, but it could just be a one-truck operator behind the wheel.
In some cases, the people who are being recruited are being paid to participate, while in other cases, they may be innocent victims. Day laborers who are picked up by the accident organizers who tell them they're taking them to a job site, when actually they're using them as crash dummies, just to try to get the insurance company to pay out when they file a lawsuit seeking damages for injuries.
Well, you know, what we're seeing a lot of is the fact that it's putting so many people's lives in danger. Along with, you know, that you have these victims that are these tractor-trailer drivers and the companies that are employing them, but also the fact that all of us others are getting impacted from the high rise in insurance rates along with medical costs. You have everyday people that are using the same roadways as these people that are staging these accidents, and their lives are being put in danger for someone who's looking to get some kind of quick gain.
An effort is underway to create a task force of law enforcement, insurance investigators, and prosecutors to focus on these staged accidents and to go after not only the willing participants who are out for a quick payday, but more so after the real criminals who are organizing the accidents and trying to collect the big paycheck from the insurers and from the policyholders who eventually pay the cost of fraud in higher premiums.
So we're not interested in them so much as we are in the people who are setting them up to do this. They're the ones who are going out and recruiting these people. They're the ones who are setting these accidents up. And so that's who we're really going to be focusing on aggressively, is trying to pinpoint the people who really cause these.
Natural disasters occur year-round across the United States. One of the most damaging disasters in terms of dollars is a hailstorm. Thousands occur every year, and some pack a major punch. But one of the most damaging factors that occurs comes long after the storm passes. That's the amount of fraudulent claims that we see from contractors out for a fast buck. Brian Dryfhout has the story.
What we have is dishonest contractors who are taking the time to go out and enhance the damage or manufacture some additional damage. And we're trying to get that information out to the consumer as well as the insurance industry so they can make a comparison to what's actual and what's man-made.
Suspicious claims have drawn the attention throughout the industry over the years. In February, for the first time ever, a full-scale hailstorm was created in an indoor laboratory setting. This test demonstration has been in the works since 2010. The Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety pelted this manufactured home with over 9,000 of these hailstones in just over 4 minutes. While the damage was quite astonishing, the research will be used for years to come.
One of the things we're really trying to get at with this test is the difference between cosmetic damage and structural damage. And then we want to work very closely with NICB members, and our members here at IBHS to look at best practices for repairing and replacing where that damage has occurred. So we're trying to do with claims that are based on fraud. One of the things that we tried to do when we started this path to get to a very realistic hailstorm is we looked at real claims files. What do the splatter patterns, the damage patterns look like on a real roof, on real siding? Then we tried to make our hailstones so perfect that they could match those real world damage patterns. We want to be able to work with NICB and our joint insurance company members to educate consumers about when is damage real and what do you need to do.
After the testing was complete, NICB agent Walt Wolochuk gave a brief tour of his initial analysis of the damage and how it can be used to avoid and detect contractor scams.
When a hailstorm comes, you're going to have sporadic damage. That is maybe indicative of somebody maybe stepping on it, but then if it was, there'd be more of a crease. As you can see, it's not creased, it's more of a rounded part, which is comparable to a hail damage. That's the first thing the contractor's going to look at is not just the roof immediately. A good contractor is going to take the time to look around the surroundings of the house to see if any bushes are damaged, any trees are damaged, vehicles, if there are vehicles parked, versus anybody who's just going to take the time to just go ahead and manufacture the damage.
While this type of testing is just the start of research, Rochman hopes that the results could lead to better building standards and lower insurance losses within a few years.
I hope that one of the big outcomes of this event today is that the storm-chasing roofing contractors who are out there trying to make easy money off of fraud and, taking advantage of consumers, I hope they understand we're coming for them. This was our big announcement today. The insurance industry is up and running, and we're going to try to do everything we can to prevent fraud related to hail in the future.
From Richburg, South Carolina, I'm Brian Dryfhout for the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
5 years ago, the Tampa and Hillsborough County, Florida areas were ground zero for drug trafficking, drugs being dispensed through pain management clinics or pill mills.
When we first began in 2009, again, it was in your face, egregious. It was, several lines outside. You could drive by a location and there would be, 25 cars parked in a parking lot, very small parking lot, 30 cars, 40 cars. 90% of them had out-of-state tags. There were probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people per car that were coming just in carloads and droves, and it wasn't hard to see what was going on.
These are not clinics like people think of, a walk-in clinic with a doctor in a white coat and a tongue depressor taking your blood pressure. These are places that I wouldn't even eat my lunch in, most of them, never mind get medical treatment.
Local officials began cracking down, passing ordinances and laws aimed at stopping the influx of people shopping for doctors who would write prescriptions for large quantities of painkillers like oxycodone. In the short term, the crackdown was effective.
We definitely have made a huge impact, I believe, first of all, with the prescription drug monitoring program that was implemented. I think that's made a huge impact on the state for the doctor shoppers. Most of them have realized that this is not worth it anymore, that they're getting looked at every day. They can make a couple $100,000 a year, but they're going to spend a couple $100,000 on their attorney fees when they get in trouble. So I kind of feel that they're reevaluating the checks and balances of being in pain management, and a lot of them that know inside that they're unethical are leaving.
Unfortunately, some are simply shifting their business to be less visible and tying pain management into clinics that specialize in PIP insurance cases.
Merging over into the PIP side, going out and recruiting people in stage accidents, bringing them there, and then use that as an avenue to get the prescriptions for the individuals. We've shut down, or they've shut down clinics pretty much, and right now we've probably got about 29 clinics that are still operating.
There's loopholes in the law. There's different ways, more sophisticated ways for these clinics and these folks to be able to go undetected by law enforcement and by NICB.
The Insurance Fraud Management Conference was recently held in Orlando, an appropriate setting since many of the suspicious claims that refer to the NICB by its members come from the state of Florida. NICB President Joe Worley noted that Florida has seen a 22% increase in questionable claims between 2010 and 2012, most of them related to the PIP fraud that is so prominent in the Sunshine State.
You can see in all of Florida in 2012 there were over 10,000 questionable claims. Over half of them, or right around 49% of them, were in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. That shouldn't surprise you. That's where a lot of the activity is, and should that surprise you either, that the number one reason for the questionable claim was a PIP fraud.
One of the ways NICB and its members are fighting PIP fraud is through the new Aggregated Medical Database, or AMD, which was created to become a repository for medical billing claims related to auto insurance and workers' compensation insurance. Although the database is receiving only a portion of the information on claims that it will eventually house, Mark Richards of Verisk Health said it already holds 255 million bills that have been submitted for $47 billion in payments just over the past 2 years. Special investigations directors like Jeff Burke of Nationwide Insurance are finding the information that's coming out of the database to be extremely helpful in identifying potential fraud by medical providers.
I see the AMD as kind of the satellite perspective for carriers. I know when we first began getting involved in the AMD, we really didn't have that satellite in place. Our intelligence was coming from traffic cameras, essentially, and until the AMD came along and began aggregating the information across the industry, we really didn't have that picture. And so the AMD today, from that satellite perspective, shows us where these issues are tracking and where they're going and where they're located. It does it from a very big picture perspective, though. So it really has given us kind of a kick in the pants, to be honest with you, to look deeper into our own medical risks and exposures that honestly we didn't know existed before.
State fraud bureaus are important partners in the fight against fraud. Dan Anderson is the director of the Florida Division of Fraud, and he says public adjusters are a focus of his office.
Rumor has it that we have a lot of big storms in Florida, so property and casualty is insurance fraud is always a big deal. And then we also have a phenomenon in the state of Florida now, because we can never keep the pendulum in the middle where it belongs with public adjusters. Now, I'll start off by saying that there are a lot of public adjusters who are righteous, law-abiding citizens, but there are a lot of them who are not. When a public adjuster knows that they get 20% of the take for a total loss of $1 million home in Destin, Florida, on the beach in North Florida because a storm hits it, that's a recipe for fraud. These public adjusters in Florida left Florida like a small army to run up to the Northeast to get licensed as quickly as they could to adjust all those claims.
That's it for this edition of NICB News. We'll be back with our next quarterly update in the summer. But until then, you can always keep up to date with what's going on in the world of insurance, fraud, and crime by logging on to our website at www.nicb.org or visiting us on YouTube at our YouTube channel or our LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter pages, and by reading our blog at nicbblog.org. I'm Roger Morris. See you next time.